This is a walkthrough of the questions for your Unit 7 test. Now, this test does have 3 versions of every question, so I may not go over in detail each version of each question, but all of the questions are worked out more or less in the same way, so the hints should definitely get you started no matter which problem you're seeing on your screen. Question number 1 gives you a list of numbers and then asks you to either find the mean, the median, or the mode of that data, depending on which question you have. If your question asks you to find the mean, here are the steps for that. In order to find the mean or the average, we add up all of the numbers that we see and then divide that total or that sum by how many numbers we had to begin with. If you're being asked to find the median, the first thing that you'll need to do is put your numbers in order from least to greatest, smallest to biggest. Find the number that's in the very middle of that list. If there happens to be 2 numbers that are in the middle, then you will find the average or the mean of those 2 numbers, and your answer will be the median. If you are asked to find the mode of your data, you are looking for the value or the number that appears the most. You might have one mode, you might have more than one mode, and it's also possible to have no mode if everything happens the same number of times. Question 2 says which description best fits the distribution of the data shown in the histogram, and you will have one of these 3 histograms. You won't have all 3, you'll have one of these graphs that are on the screen. Your choices are uniform, bell-shaped, skewed left, or skewed right. I'm going to go through what each of the 4 choices means, and then that should help you best match whichever histogram you're given. If your data is distributed uniformly, that means it's straight all the way across. They all hit the exact same level. And just by looking at these 3 choices, these 3 pictures right here, I don't see any that fit the uniform description. So we can actually go ahead and just mark that one out. You will not choose choice A or uniform, whatever it appears for on your screen. You're going to be choosing between bell-shaped, which means your data takes a picture that kind of looks like this. It peaks in the middle. A skewed left data means you have a tail on the left side of your data. So it would kind of look like, let me see if I can draw it. It would look a little like this. That is a terrible picture. Let me try that one more time. It means that you'll have a tail on the left of the data. So you'll have like the majority of your data all together, and then it'll kind of like trail off on the left. Skewed right would be the opposite of that. It means you have most of your data on the left-hand side, and you've got like some data pulling you over to the right. Wherever the tail is where your data is skewed. Question 3 says, which box plot represents the data? And then you have a list of data and 4 choices with a box and whisker plot. Here are the steps that you'll need to take in order to properly match the box plot to the data that you're given. You should start by putting your data in order from least to greatest. Your data might be given to you that way to begin with, or you might have to actually put it in order. For this specific test question that I'm looking at on the screen, the data is not in order from least to greatest. So you will need to put them in order from least to greatest first. Then you need to find the minimum, the lowest value, and the maximum, the highest value. And those values are going to be the whiskers or the ends of your picture when you go to place it on the box and whisker plot. Next, you're going to find the median. The median is going to be the middle of your data. If you have 2 numbers in the middle, you find their mean, and that will give you the overall median. The median is going to be this vertical line that you see inside the box in your box and whisker plot. After you find your median, that cuts your data in half. So you're going to look at the low half and find the middle of that. That's called the lower quartile, and it will be the value that makes up the left side of your box. You're also going to look at the upper half of your data, so going from the median up to the highest number in your list, and find the middle of just that group of numbers. That's called the upper quartile, and that value that you find will be the upper quartile or the right side of the box in your box and whisker plot. No matter which version of this test question you have, you're going to work it out the same. Put your values in order, find your minimum and maximum, then find your median, and then look at the low half, find the middle of that, look at the upper half, find the middle of that. Question 4 says, which values in this data set are outliers, and you have a list of numbers. The outliers might be obvious sometimes, but we should always check just to make sure we know which ones are actually mathematically proven to be outliers and which ones are not. So your steps for finding an outlier are here in this red box. The first thing that you'll need to do is put your data in order from least to greatest. So I have that data in order from least to greatest here. And then you're going to find the inner quartile range. And the way that we find the inner quartile range is by taking the upper quartile, Q3, and subtract the lower quartile, Q1. So we're going to start by finding the median of the data, and that's what we do when we cut the data in half. So I'm going to go through, and I'm kind of using my fingers right now on the screen. I know you can't see that. And I'm moving in from the left and from the right, and I see that 52 is going to be my median. So I'm going to write Q2 above that. That means that's the median. And so now in order to find the upper and lower quartiles, I'm going to be looking at just the upper and lower halves of the data separately. So let's start with the low half. That means I'm going to stretch from the 20 up to the 51 and find the number that's in the exact middle of that. So if I find the number in the middle, I see that it is 48. So I'm going to label that Q1, that's my lower quartile. If I do the same thing on my upper side, I get that Q3 is 61. And now I'm going to use my fences to determine if I have any outliers. So your lower fence is going to be Q1 minus 1.5 times the IQR. Your IQR is equal to your upper quartile, Q3, minus your lower quartile, Q1. So in this example, it would be 61 minus 48, and that's going to be the IQR that you will be multiplying by 1.5 in these two different fences. So you just follow the steps that are in these little equations right here to find your fences. If you have any data lower than the lower fence, it is an outlier. If you have data that's higher than the upper fence, it is also an outlier. And the other two versions of the question are worked out in a very similar way. Number 5 says, how much greater is the median number of employees at restaurant A than the median number of employees at restaurant B? So you are comparing the features of two different box and whisker plots. All of the question versions are asking you to compare the medians, and the median is the vertical line inside the box of your box and whisker plot. So restaurant A, the median right here looks like it's at 30, and the median for restaurant B looks like it's at 25. So you would use those values, 30 and 25, to figure out how much greater, or what is the difference, we find that by subtracting, between those two medians. And version 2 and version 3 are worked out very similarly. You are comparing the medians of those box and whisker plots. Number 6 gives you a two-way table, a frequency table, and it says that a survey was done that asked people to indicate whether they preferred running outdoors or indoors. What operation, I'm right here at the actual question, what operation should this person, Amir, perform to determine the relative frequency of a person age 30 and younger who prefers to run outdoors? So what we're trying to find is the relative frequency is the part that you care about divided by the total number of people that you're looking at. So this question says, I'm finding the relative frequency of a person age 30 and younger who prefers to run outdoors. So I need to go to my table and figure out exactly which number I'm looking at for that particular category of person. So people that are 30 and younger are going to be this top row, but I'm only interested in the ones that prefer to run outdoors. So that's going to be this 382. So if I take the part that I care about, that's going to be my 382 people, and I would divide that by my total number of people. And you would have to figure out what the total number of people represented in this table would give you. Versions 2 and 3 are worked out in a very similar way. You just need to go through and find which category of people you're looking at. So version 2 says, You're looking for a person over 30 years old who prefers ocean swimming. So you'll look for that intersection in the table of people over 30 and prefer ocean swimming. And version 3, you are looking for people over 30 years old who prefer to ride a mountain bike. So over 30 years old intersects mountain bike at that value right there. Question 7, the scatter plot shows the number of cars and trucks sold by 10 different employees at a car and truck dealership during a month. How many employees sold more cars than trucks? Each of these versions for the question number 7 are a little bit different, but they all require you to read what the axes represent. So you need to take a look at the x-axis. In this example, it's the number of cars that are sold, and the y-axis, in this example, it's the number of trucks that are sold. This question says how many employees sold more cars than trucks. That means I want my x-coordinate to be greater than my y-coordinate. And you can go through and label the points if you want to. So I'm just going to, for example, do this one right here that I just dotted in purple. If I were to name that point, it would be 4, 3. So my x value is 4, my y value is 3. X is greater than y, so I know that this one right here, this whatever employee this represents, he fits the bill. That's going to count for one of my points that has an x-coordinate higher than its y-coordinate. And you would just need to go through and check all 10 points and then figure out how many of them fit this x is greater than y requirement that you're looking for. Version 2, it says how many groups completed the course in less than 90 minutes. So you're going to be looking at each point and finding the ones that have a y-coordinate that is less than 90 and count them up. Version 3 says how many students scored a 90 or above on this test. So you're going to look at each point, which ones have a y-coordinate of 90 or more. Be very careful that you're including 90 in this particular example. Number 8, what is the strength of the association between the two variables in the scatter plot? And you will select from a drop-down menu, and you have some choices there. Now, no matter which version you have, your association might be positive, it might be negative, it doesn't really matter. We're just looking at the strength of the association, and so I have the positive ones listed right here in this picture, just so I didn't have to do them twice. If you have a strong association, that means your points are really close together and they form a line that's kind of more squished together. The weaker the association, the more wildly spread out your data tends to be. So like on version 2 and version 3, you're just figuring out if your data is kind of close together or if it's really scattered apart. Number 9, in a study of towns, there was a positive correlation between the number of mailboxes and the number of traffic lights. Which variable is most likely the lurking variable? So the lurking variable is something that affects both of your items. So we're looking for the choice that would affect both the number of mailboxes and the number of traffic lights that a town would have. Does the population affect both of those things? Do the ages of the residents, the highest temperatures, or the commute times affect both the mailboxes and the traffic lights? Version 2, you're looking for whatever choice would affect both the sales of sweaters and the sales of sandals. And then version 3, which choice affects both the amount of water that somebody drinks and the number of whales that they have time to see.